With us now, the one, the only JT Williamson. Morning, JT. Tell us about these gas shortages, man.
Hey, Gerard, what's happening today, buddy?
Doing good.
Listen, I actually want to talk a lot about this, and maybe if we got time, we could do one more segment. I don't know what your schedule is, but about the gas shortage, I talked to several people this morning, and first of all, we're being our own worst enemy right now.
Yep.
Combination of social media, people panicking. It's like the toilet paper from COVID. It's real. People really being pretty dumb right now. If we just go about our business, buy our gas normally like we normally would, we wouldn't be seeing any issues. I talked to, well, let me give you a little history first. First of all, my grandfather was a huge part of Plantation Pipeline in Collins, Mississippi. That's where my family is from, both sides of my family. And my grandfather was very instrumental in getting Plantation Pipeline, was basically in charge of it back in the 60s and 70s, getting it into Collins, Mississippi. There's two pipelines that feed the terminals down there. Everybody's seen the terminals right there in Collins, the big tanks, the big white tanks. And there's two pipelines that feed Collins. One is Colonial Pipeline, and the other one is Plantation Pipeline. Colonial Pipeline was hacked, and it was not that they can't feed the fuel. It basically hacked their safety and redundancy systems, so they had to shut down because of that. Plantation Pipeline was not affected whatsoever. So there's still plenty of fuel being fed into the terminals into Collins, and there's not a shortage of fuel right now. You might see maybe a Shell station or two that might, be a little light because of Colonial. Colonial is the only one that's being affected, but there's plenty of fuel in Collins, and the problem is right now is delivery because people are panic buying right now. It's not a shortage of fuel, and I think it all got started on social media, to be honest with you, Gerard.
Yeah, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I talked to a very good friend of mine, Don Clyburn, down in Starr, Mississippi. He owns Clyburn Tank Lines, and they're the majority. They haul more gas from Collins to Jackson than probably any independent Mississippi contractor there is. And he basically said to me this morning when I talked to him, if people just went about their business, we wouldn't have any problems. I mean, Don owns the company, and he said, I came down here this morning because I may have to get in a truck. He don't drive a truck. Yeah. Normally, but he was getting ready to because of the way people are crazy and acting stupid trying to buy fuel because, they thought a hurricane was about to hit. It's just people panicking over really nothing to be panicking about. And if people, like I said, will just go about their business and shop normally, you shouldn't have any problems.
Yeah, totally agree. I did, because I was low on gas, I had to get some this morning. And
well, sure.
Yeah, but not going out and running like a lot of people are that really don't need to. And no, didn't experience any lines. Did notice there was probably more folks around the station looking to fill up than normal. I went to the little Exxon station, right here by the building on County Line Road. But I did notice, JT, they were out of all grades except the highest, most expensive grade. And
that's just what that is right there.
Yeah.
What that shows you, Gerard, is people just bought it up.
Yep.
And they just hadn't been able to get a truck to them yet.
Yeah.
I think my daughter sent me something last night that said Madison was out of gas last night at some point because people were running. And I saw pictures of people at the Costco last night where they were stacked up 4 and 5 deep, just panic buying gas. And we're our own worst enemy in this thing right now. I realize everybody wants full tank of gas. They don't want to miss out on not having any gas. I get what the deal is, but if you got a half a tank of gas, you're okay. It's going to correct itself by this weekend, and everything should be fine. They feel like Colonial will be back online by this weekend. That was according to John Pope, the fire chief down in Collins, who was, obviously he knows a lot about what's going on. He's got to protect that place from fire and what's happening. And he's talking to them, and he knows quite a bit what's happening. It's just people that are freaking out. But Gerard, I kind of caught wind of what you were talking about in the first segment, that everything is vulnerable. And I totally agree. And I've said this many times, and that's kind of what, if you got time, I'd like to talk with y'all about that on the way back. Our biggest threat in this country right now, in my opinion, and I'm no expert, but it's not us being at war or being invaded. It's a cyber attack. That's our biggest threat to our country right now, is countries, that and COVID or some type of bio attack. But a cyber attack is our biggest enemy right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, absolutely. Not only would I agree, I talked about it yesterday and have before. Rhino, on the show, I've mentioned that. JT, I can tell you, in the pleasure I've had of traveling around the state and addressing numerous civic and political groups, I have highlighted that, exactly what you're saying. Going back 7 or 8 years ago, folks, it's not terrorism. It's not China or Russia. It's cyber attack. And the next war, it ain't going to be fought with guns and nuclear bombs. It's going to be fought in the digital sphere. There's no question about it. And we are vulnerable. And the biggest problem we have, and I was in that business. I mean, I hired people to do that. I had an army of people deliver those services. Look, the biggest problem is we ain't got enough people. The latest data in the industry shows we need 750,000 cybersecurity experts. We have 250,000 qualified in the country. We don't have enough. So we're only 500,000 short. You can have all the technology you want, but it don't do squat unless you got qualified people to design it and implement it and support it. And it's a huge shortage. So the message is, folks, if you're looking for steady, highly compensated employment, think about cybersecurity. The demand is off the charts, and it's just going to continue to increase. But you're absolutely right, JT.
Well, I mean, heck, we've been hacked before at the radio station. They'll hack a computer or something. It's what it's called ransomware, isn't it? Where they try to hold you ransom. They won't. Yeah, that's. Do they want money? Is that what it is?
In Bitcoin, it's all about. And even Rhino, I see you shaking your head. You've seen the statements from the dark side or whichever one. So I've talked about this many times. This is the Russian syndicate that's behind all this. I've said it over and over on this pro. Here it is, right here. These people don't want anything but money. That's all they care about, and they're a paid organization. They're paid by the syndicate and they get a part of it to go hack, hold these companies ransom who have to pay to get their systems back. Essentially is what it boils down to. It is a complex deal, and there's lots of legal and moral and technical issues, and it's a cat and mouse game that don't ever end. I'm not sure why they chose these particular people, and I can tell you this. It's kind of like, this is the way I've always described it. If you were a crook and you were going to go, let's say, rob a house, you may go to the doors and you're going to find one that's open. That's what you do. Well, that one's locked next. That one's locked next. That one's open. Oh, step right in. That's exactly what these people do when they're out looking for systems to hack, to infiltrate with malicious code that essentially results in asking for money, holding their systems hostage for money. That's exactly what happens here. So somebody figured out, hey, these systems are vulnerable. These guys don't have their act together. Let's go after that one. That's what it boils down to.
Well, can I hang with you and do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're good. We got a guest coming up at 11, but we're good.
I can't tell if the music's playing, but
no, we're good. We got a minute.
I do want to talk about that because, we talk about hurricane preparedness all the time, and they're telling us what to do and be ready for that. But we really need to be prepared for cyber attack preparedness.
Yep.
And, I've done a couple of things myself. I got caught with my pants down after Katrina, and I never will again. I learned the hard way, and I've got things in place at my house that I won't ever have that issue again, where I can function during a hurricane and a power outage, where I learned the hard way. And I've been determined that I'm not going to let that happen with a cyber attack. And I want to ask you about some scenarios that could possibly happen.
Hold on to that thought, JT. We're taking a break right here.
Sure.
We got you. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We got JT on the line. We've got the great JT Williamson on the line. All right, JT, please continue.
Man, it feels like being back at work.
That's awesome.
I miss you guys, man. I'm telling you right now. By the way, I'm doing great. I feel like $100, and I called you. I'm supposed to get out of here hopefully tomorrow, and be on the road to recovery. Hoping and praying everything works great on this new CAR T therapy. Just letting y'all know what's going on.
Appreciate
I saw
that.
the best tweet. Guy tweeted, said, first toilet paper, now gasoline. I'm thinking about starting a rumor that there's an impending shortage of seats at church this Sunday.
Awesome.
That's pretty good, huh?
Absolutely. Oh, my gosh.
So,
Go ahead.
a scenario I wanted to ask you about, Gerard. And I know, I mean, you're a computer guru. That was what you did for years, and were obviously very successful with that. But literally, we literally could have a cyber attack where the internet quits working. Well, if the internet quits working, or portions of it, we literally could be to the point where we wouldn't be able to use a bank card or a credit card, correct?
Yeah, that's true. The internet, taking down the entire internet, because it consists of so many different so much different underlying infrastructure. I mean, physical infrastructure, from electronics to cables, et cetera. That would be difficult. But yeah, a big chunk of it is possible. And of course, trying to shut down the networks that power, say, the credit card company systems that traverse the internet to do what you're talking about would probably be even a higher value target, I guess, if you will. But yeah, we're heavily reliant and we're vulnerable. Yes.
Well, let's back up. Let's just say the power grid.
Yep.
I mean, if the power's not on, you can't use a credit card.
Yeah, I mean, the power grid means people die. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if the power goes down for an extended period of time, we can't survive without it. Our society's just not built to withstand loss of power.
We found that out after Katrina. I mean, how difficult that was. I mean, that's why I got a generator myself, and then my neighbor and I share a generator when it gets really bad, if we got to power up other things.
Yep.
I think people need to really understand that you need to be prepared for a lot of things. It's what kills me when the snow and ice come in. People run to the grocery store. Got to have milk and bread to make milk sandwiches, It's like, don't you have a deep freeze? Don't you have a pantry? I've never understood why people aren't prepared to make sure that they've got things in their home that they can feed their family if something were to happen. Another example, and you should have some cash laying around.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but enough that if you needed to, if you weren't able to use a credit card or go to the ATM, that you could still function if you had to. And somebody's going to take cash if we get in a situation like that, where people can go about their business. Having some emergency supplies. It's just like a hurricane. It's just like anything else. That we're vulnerable to that situation if and when somebody decides to attack us. I mean, you look at COVID. We were scared to get out of the house. People were scared they were going to run out of toilet paper. I still, for the life of me, can't figure out the run on the toilet paper during COVID. But I guess it was people were scared to go outside, and that was the main thing they were scared of running out of. But, having some stuff in your pantry, having some things that you might need on a daily basis. The part that scares me is, your medicine, making sure that you've got medicine if that were the case. And, we're going into hurricane season. It's rare that it affects us in central Mississippi, but we learned in 2005 that it can.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think that's the thing that people need to be aware of. Yeah, we can't. It's not practical to keep gasoline around your house. I get that, but today just gives a perfect example. And yesterday, of what people do when they panic because they're scared they're not going to be able to get something that they need or they desperately need. We need gas. I got caught during Katrina without gas. I'll never forget it. Me and Gary were underneath the old motorhome siphoning gas out of it to put gas in my truck so I could go out to the transmitter to get work done. I'll never forget that. In fact, it was funny. Big Daddy came up on us as we were doing it. He asked us what we were doing. I said, they're siphoning gas out of the motorhome to put in the truck. He said, y'all look like y'all done that before. I'll never forget that. But, I understand those types of things. I get it. But it's just a little common sense. Get yourself prepared and be ready with a little common sense to be able to, be able to provide for yourself. Because anything can happen. And I think a cyber attack is just as dangerous to us as, Lord knows the tornadoes that hit. You got to deal with that, the different types of things. Just be prepared. The old Boy Scout motto, they say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The question is, I think, that is a bigger concern to me is if we had such an attack that took down something, systems, electricity, et cetera, how long until that's restored? And all these organizations are supposed to have recovery plans and disaster recovery plans that dictate that and that they would activate, mobilize in the event of an outage. But things don't always go as planned. And I tell you, JT, where we really learned about that was 9/11. Because all these companies had these very sophisticated disaster recovery plans. The problem is, back in those days, it required these high-end IT engineers getting on airplanes and flying somewhere to activate the backup sites. Problem is, they weren't flying airplanes, as you recall. And then if they were, nobody was leaving their family to go take care of their business. And it completely changed the way we architect and implement disaster recovery systems in this country. 9/11 taught us that. So you would think we'd have learned, as you're saying, from Katrina down here to a lot of that stuff. I don't know.
Buddy, I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way. I got a generator and a fan, buddy. I can assure you I'll never go through that again. That's the hottest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't any fun. Yeah,
No,
Stan and Ripley says, I agree with JT. We all think alike here. Amanda for Pike County says, good to hear JT. And lots of other well wishes as well. Debbie in Hattiesburg says, it's made my day to hear JT talking about the issues and sounding strong. I've prayed for him and family constantly. Love you. So Ed from Aberdeen, same thing. So just wanted to pass that on to you, my friend.
Gerard, you're talking to the best listeners in the state of Mississippi, the best listeners in the country, as a matter of fact. And I miss each and every one of them. And I miss being in there. I miss that microphone like you don't even know, man. But it's good to do a couple segments with y'all. I'm feeling a lot better. Maybe I can start doing more of this, just hanging out a little bit.
That's awesome.
And then hopefully, and get the heck out of, I hate to say this, but dumb old Texas. Rhino knows what I'm talking about, don't you, Rhino?
Dumb old Texas.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Rhino? You remember the SpongeBob episode, dumb old Texas? No, Texas is a cool place. Houston's just not for me. There's too many people in too small a place. But I tell you, they're great. They're great here at this hospital, and I'm ready. I'm ready for some Madison, Mississippi.
Yeah,
I'm ready to be back in my place. But I'm fighting hard. I'm going to be back. I feel good, everybody, and y'all keep the prayers coming. I appreciate each and every one of them and the kind words. I tell you, I'm the most blessed man in the world with all the people that are praying for me, and have done so over this past year. And gosh, what is it now? 3 months.
Yep.
Never dreamed it would be this long, guys. But things are looking up. Things are looking better, and I am going to be back in that microphone. I promise.
Well, you sound fantastic, and you could obviously the listeners are praying for you and miss you as well. And you're right; they're the best in the world. And I know Madison's ready for you to reestablish your residence there, my friend. So a lot of good stuff going on, as you know. Texas is good, and I know MD Anderson's been good to you as well, but it ain't Madison.
Well, take care of my listeners for me, Gerard. Y'all take it easy. And quit running the gas stations, everybody. There's plenty of gas.
There you go. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Yeah, man. We'll
Bye-bye.
talk to you soon. Thank you, JT. Thanks so much to JT for calling in today. That was quite a surprise. Great to hear from him on the show. Yep. Sounds like he's in good shape to do more of that, which would be fantastic. So we're going to take a break right here, folks. Don't forget, coming up at 11, we've got Dawn McVeigh with the National Federation of Independent Small Businesses, and then the Sheriff's Roundtable at 12. You don't want to miss this, folks. Randy Johnson, president of the Mississippi Sheriff's Association, and the Sheriff of Jasper County, Todd Kemp, former president, and Brian Bailey, Sheriff of Rankin County, going to be in the studio. This is going to be good. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. The JT Show continues after these messages.
You mean we can't say anything bad about dumb old Texas? No!